Most people make the same mistake when an avoidant starts pulling away. They think, if I just explain myself one more time, they will understand. Eek. Then they send another text, and another, and another. Okay, what feels like love to one person often feels like pressure to someone with avoidant tendencies. This is where people get trapped. The more distance they feel, the harder they push. The harder they push, the more distance they create. Understanding this dynamic changes everything. An avoidant person is often highly sensitive to perceived demands on their emotional freedom. Epoi. The moment they feel responsible for managing someone else's anxiety, they may begin creating space. That doesn't mean they don't care. It means their nervous system often responds differently to emotional intensity. So instead of asking, how do I make them come back? A better question is, how do I stop creating the pressure that keeps them away? Let's talk about 4 types of texts that often work. Better than chasing. Text #1. The permission text. A simple example might be no pressure to respond. Just wanted to wish you a good week. Notice what this message does. It removes obligation. It removes urgency. It removes emotional debt. Most people send messages hoping to get something back. A reply. Validation. Reassurance. The permission text asks for nothing. And because it asks for nothing, it often feels safe. Psychologically, people resist pressure, but they rarely resist freedom. When someone feels free to choose, their natural curiosity and connection often have room to emerge. Text #2. The positive memory text. A simple version sounds like this. I passed that coffee shop we laughed at last month, and it made me smile. That's it. No hidden agenda, no guilt, no emotional trap, just a positive memory. Why does this work? Because memory is emotional. And people remember experiences, they often reconnect with the feelings attached to those experiences. Many people make the mistake of reminding someone about conflict. They remind them about what went wrong. Instead, upbraid them about what went right. The brain naturally associates emotions with memories. A positive memory can quietly reopen a door that pressure would slam shut. I've been focusing on a few personal goals lately. Hope things are going well for you too. This text communicates something powerful. You are moving forward. You are growing. You are not sitting still waiting for someone else's decision. Nothing attracts healthy attention more than genuine self-development. Not because growth makes someone jealous. Because growth signals emotional stability. Many people unknowingly communicate, my happiness depends on you. A growth text communicates, my life is continuing regardless of what happens. That energy changes everything. Confidence isn't loud. Confidence is simply the absence of desperation. Text #4. The open door text. This is perhaps the most misunderstood. A simple example, I've enjoyed knowing you. If you'd ever like to reconnect in the future, feel free to reach out. Then you stop. No follow-up, no countdown, no checking, no pressure. This message does something most people struggle to do. It combines openness with detachment. You're not closing the door, but you're also not standing in the doorway waiting. Many avoidants become more comfortable approaching when they don't feel pursued. The open door text respects both people. It says, I'm available, but I am not chasing. That distinction matters. Now, here's the part most people don't want to hear. None of these texts are magic. No text can make someone love you. No text can force commitment. No text can create emotional availability where none exists. And that's actually good news. Because your goal should never be controlling another person's behavior. Your goal should be communicating in a healthy, respectful way while maintaining your own dignity. The strongest position you can ever occupy is not trying to convince someone to choose you. It's becoming comfortable with the fact that your value exists whether they choose you or not. Ironically, that's often when relationships improve, because the pressure disappears, the anxiety decreases, and authentic connection finally has room to breathe. Avoidants respond to safety. Not pressure. This is one of the most misunderstood dynamics in modern relationships. When someone with avoidant tendencies begins to pull away, they send more messages. Reaction for many people is to move closer. They send more messages, ask for more conversations, seek more reassurance, A try harder to repair the connection. While these actions often come from a place of care and concern, they can unintentionally create the very outcome they are trying to prevent. For an avoidant person, emotional pressure can feel overwhelming. AK, when they sense expectatio, demands, or urgency, their instinct is often to protect their independence by creating distance. It is not always because they do not care. In many cases, they care deeply, but struggle with feeling emotionally trapped or responsible for another person's emotional state. The more they feel cornered, the more they may retreat. This is why emotional safety is so powerful. Safety communicates that there is room to breathe, think, and choose freely. It removes the fear of being judged, controlled, or pushed into an emotional response before they are ready. When people feel safe, their defenses naturally begin to lower. They no longer feel the need to protect themselves from pressure because the pressure is gone. Many people believe that stronger emotions create stronger connections. In reality, emotional intensity without safety often creates resistance. Repeatedly asking where the relationship is going, demanding immediate answers, or sending long emotional messages may feel productive, but it can increase anxiety for someone who already struggles with closeness. Safety, on the other hand, it creates an environment where genuine connection can grow naturally. Think about the difference between an open door and a locked room. A locked room creates the urge to escape. An open door creates the freedom to stay. Human beings are far more likely to move toward connection when they know they have a choice. This is especially true for avoidant individuals. The goal is not to walk on eggshells or ignore your own needs. Healthy relationships require communication, honesty, and mutual effort. However, there is a difference between expressing your feelings and trying to force an outcome. When communication comes from calm confidence rather than fear of loss, it feels safer and more inviting. In many cases, the strongest message you can send is not one that demands attention, but one that communicates respect, patience, and emotional stability. Safety invites connection. Acre often pushes it away. That simple distinction can change the entire direction of a relationship. Desperation creates distance, even though most people believe it should create closeness. When someone fears losing a relationship, their natural instinct is often to hold on tighter. They send another message when the first one goes unanswered. They ask for reassurance. They seek explanations. They try to convince the other person to stay, understand, or reconnect. While these behaviors are usually driven by genuine concern and emotional pain, they often produce the opposite effect of what was intended. The reason is simple: desperation communicates anxiety rather than confidence. It signals that your emotional well-being is becoming dependent on another person's response. When someone receives repeated texts and urgent requests for answers or emotional pleas, they may begin to feel pressure rather than connection. Instead of feeling drawn closer, they may feel responsible for fixing emotions they did not create and may not know how to handle. This dynamic becomes even more noticeable with avoidant personalities. People with avoidant tendencies are often highly sensitive to anything that feels emotionally demanding. When they sense pressure, they may interpret it as a threat to their independence or personal space. The more intensely someone pursues them, the stronger their desire can become to create distance. It is not necessarily a reflection of how much they care. It is often a reaction to how much pressure they perceive. Many people make the mistake of believing that if they can just explain their feelings one more time, they will finally be understood. They think the next text will be the one that changes everything. But when several messages go unanswered, each additional attempt can increase the emotional weight of the situation. The conversation stops being about connection and starts becoming about reducing anxiety. The other person can feel that shift. Confidence and desperation create very different emotional experiences. Confidence says, I value this connection, but I also value myself. Desperation says, my peace depends on your response. One creates attraction and respect. The other can unintentionally create pressure and resistance. This does not mean you should suppress your feelings or pretend not to care. Healthy communication is important. Expressing emotions honestly is part of every meaningful relationship. The difference lies in whether those emotions are shared calmly or used as an attempt to force reassurance, answers, or commitment. The strongest position is not chasing someone who is pulling away. It is maintaining your self-respect while allowing people the freedom to make their own choices. Ironically, when desperation disappears, relationships often become healthier because the pressure disappears as well. Genuine connection grows best when it is chosen freely. Not pursued fearfully. Curiosity is one of the most powerful forces in human psychology, yet most people completely overlook it when trying to reconnect with someone. When a relationship feels uncertain, the instinct for many people is to pursue harder. They ask for reassurance, seek constant updates, and try to get clear answers about where they stand. While these efforts are understandable, I often place attention on anxiety rather than connection. Curiosity, on the other hand, works differently. It invites engagement without creating pressure. Think about how people naturally respond when they encounter something intriguing. When a person hears part of a story but not the ending, they want to know more. When they notice a positive change in someone, they become interested in what caused it. Curiosity creates a psychological pull because the mind naturally seeks completion, unlike pursuit, which pushes for a response. Curiosity encourages the other person to move toward the conversation on their own. This is especially important when dealing with avoidant personalities. Avoidant individuals often withdraw when they feel emotionally cornered. Questions such as, "Why haven't you replied?" or "Do you still care about me?" may come from a place of vulnerability. It can also feel demanding. These messages place the focus on obtaining reassurance. As a result, the other person may feel pressure to provide answers they are not ready to give. A message that sparks curiosity creates a very different experience. Instead of asking for something, it shares something. Instead of demanding attention, it naturally attracts it. A simple message mentioning an interesting experience, a personal breakthrough, or a positive life change can often generate more engagement than a message filled with emotional urgency. The reason is that curiosity allows people to approach voluntarily rather than react defensively. There is also an important lesson hidden within this principle. People are often most curious about those with are actively living their lives. When someone is focused on growth, learning, new experiences, and personal development, they become naturally interesting. Their energy shifts from seeking validation to creating value in their own lives. Others notice the change. This does not mean playing games or trying to manipulate someone's emotions. Genuine curiosity comes from authenticity, not strategy. The goal is not to make someone wonder about you through mystery or silence. The goal is to communicate in a way that feels light, natural, and pressure-free. In relationships, pursuit often says, "Please respond so I can feel better." Curiosity says, "Here is something interesting from my world." One creates obligation. The other creates interest. And when people feel interested instead of pressured, they are far more likely to engage willingly and genuinely. Self-respect is one of the most attractive qualities a person can possess, yet it is often tested the most when relationships become uncertain. When someone starts pulling away, many people feel an overwhelming urge to prove their worth, seek reassurance, or convince the other person to stay. The problem is that communication driven by fear rarely creates the outcome people hope for. Messages sent from anxiety often sound different than messages sent from confidence, even when the words themselves appear similar. People can sense the emotional state behind communication. A person who respects themselves communicates with clarity, honesty, and calmness. They express what they feel without begging for validation or demanding a specific response. Their words carry weight because they are not trying to force an outcome. They are simply communicating their truth. Creates an entirely different emotional experience for the person receiving the message. A fear-based communication often comes from the belief that losing the relationship means losing something essential about oneself. When people operate from that mind, every interaction becomes emotionally loaded. A delayed response feels threatening. A short message feels like rejection. Silence feels unbearable. As a result, communication becomes focused on reducing anxiety rather than building connection. The other person can often feel that pressure, and it may unintentionally push them further away. Self-respect changes the dynamic completely. It allows someone to care deeply about a relationship while still maintaining their sense of identity. Instead of thinking, I need this person to choose me in order to feel valuable, they understand that their worth exists independently of anyone else's decision. Eco. This mindset creates emotional stability, and emotional stability is naturally attractive because it communicates strength and security. Confidence is often misunderstood. Many people think confidence means acting indifferent or pretending not to care. In reality, genuine confidence allows a person to care without becoming consumed by the outcome. It means being willing to express feelings honestly while accepting that others have the freedom to make their own choices. That balance between openness and self-respect is powerful. When people respect themselves, they are less likely to tolerate unhealthy behavior, mixed signals, or endless uncertainty. They do not chase endlessly because they understand that relationships should involve mutual effort. They recognize that connection cannot be forced and that true interest does not require constant persuasion. Ironically, self-respect often creates the very qualities people seek in relationships. It fosters calmness instead of desperation, clarity instead of confusion, and confidence instead of fear. Whether a relationship succeeds or fails, a person who maintains self-respect remains grounded. Their value does not rise or fall based on someone else's attention. In the end, the most powerful message anyone can send is not through words alone. It is through the quiet calm, evidence of knowing their worth, honoring their boundaries, and refusing to abandon themselves in an attempt to keep someone else. That kind of self-respect speaks louder than any text message ever could. Space allows emotional processing, and this is a concept many people struggle to accept when they care deeply about someone. When a relationship feels uncertain, the instinct is often to close the distance as quickly as possible. People want immediate conversations, clear answers, and reassurance that everything will be okay. However, many avoidant individuals process emotions very differently. Instead of moving toward others when emotions become intense, they often move inward. For an avoidant person, strong emotions can feel overwhelming. They may not immediately understand what they are feeling or how to express it. While some people process emotions through discussion and connection, avoidants often process emotions through reflection and solitude. They need time to think, make of their feelings, and regain a sense of emotional balance. This internal processing is not always visible to others. Each can create misunderstandings. When someone repeatedly reaches out during this period, asking for answers or demanding clarity, they can interrupt that process. What feels like an attempt to solve the problem may feel like additional pressure to the avoidant person. Instead of having the space to understand their emotions, they may feel forced to respond before they are ready. As a result, they often retreat even further. Many people mistakenly assume that distance means indifference. They interpret silence as proof that the other person does not care. In reality, some avoidant individuals may be thinking about the relationship constantly while saying very little. Their emotional process simply happens internally rather than externally. They may need time to sort through conflicting feelings, fears, and uncertainties before they feel comfortable reconnecting. This is why space can be so powerful. Space removes immediate pressure. It allows emotions to settle and gives both people an opportunity to gain perspective. When there is no constant demand for answers, an avoidant person can often examine their feelings more honestly. They have the freedom to miss the connection, reflect on what it means to them, and approach the relationship from a place of choice rather than obligation. Leaving space does not mean accepting poor treatment or waiting indefinitely. Healthy relationships still require communication and mutual effort. Space should not become an excuse for endless avoidance or emotional unavailability. Instead, it should be viewed as a temporary opportunity for emotional processing and self-reflection. The challenge for many people is trusting the process. A fear says that if you stop reaching out, the connection will disappear. But genuine connection does not survive because of constant pursuit. It survives because both people freely key. Sometimes the most supportive thing you can do is step back and allow someone the room they need to understand their own emotions. When space is given with confidence rather than fear, it becomes an act of respect. It communicates, I trust you to process your feelings. And I trust myself enough not to force an outcome in many cases. App freedom creates the very environment where authentic reconnection becomes possible. The goal is healthy communication, not control. This is one of the most important distinctions people can make when navigating relationships, especially when dealing with someone who has avoidant tendencies. Too often, communication becomes focused on achieving a specific outcome rather than expressing thoughts and feelings in a healthy way. People begin searching for the perfect text, the perfect phrase, or the perfect strategy that will guarantee a response. But healthy communication is not about finding a magical formula that makes someone behave a certain way. It is about creating an environment where honest connection has the opportunity to grow. The texts discussed throughout this conversation are not manipulation tactics. They are not designed to trick someone into returning, feeling guilty, or changing their mind. Instead, they demonstrate a different approach to communication, one that is calm, respectful, and free from unnecessary pressure. Their purpose is to reduce emotional tension and allow interactions to happen more naturally. Manipulation is rooted in control. It attempts to influence another person's behavior by creating fear, guilt, obligation, or emotional dependence. Healthy communication does the opposite. It respects the other person's freedom to make their own choices. It acknowledges that while you can express yourself honestly, you cannot force another person to respond, reconnect, or commit. This acceptance creates a foundation of emotional maturity that strengthens relationships rather than weakening them. One of the biggest mistakes people make is believing that more pressure will produce more clarity. They think that if they ask enough questions, send enough messages, or explain their feelings often enough, they can force a resolution. In reality, pressure frequently creates resistance. People tend to move away from situations where they feel controlled or emotionally cornered. Healthy communication avoids this trap by focusing on clarity rather than coercion. Respect is another essential component. Respect means allowing someone the space to think, process, and respond in their own time. It means expressing your feelings without demanding that someone manage them for you. It means being honest about your needs while recognizing that the other person has needs and boundaries as well. This balance creates conversations that feel safe rather than stressful. Healthy communication also requires self-respect. When you communicate from a place of confidence, your goal is not to convince anyone of your value. Your value already exists. Instead, you share your thoughts because they are genuine and meaningful. You communicate because it is the right thing to do, not because you are trying to control the outcome. Ultimately, a strongest relationships are not built on tactics. They are built on trust, understanding, and mutual choice. The purpose of these texts is not to make someone come back. The purpose is to communicate in a way that preserves dignity, reduces pressure, and leaves room for authentic connection. Whether the relationship continues or not, healthy communication ensures that you remain true to yourself while giving the relationship its best chance to grow naturally.